today we have an amazing special event with Anya and Peter Jan, Anya Wedberg, Peter Jan Benoit. That's how you pronounce your name?
Perfect.
Yeah. And we had a chance to work together for a while now, since 2019. We learned together, we progressed together, and it's very like a huge honor to have you here today. I'm very excited. And you will present yourself also and talk about your background as well soon. And that's about it. Welcome to an event by the UX Writing Hub. My name is Yuval. I'm the founder of the UX Writing Hub, which is a platform that creates a lot of content for UX writers, content designers, these type of events. We have the podcast Writers in Tech that I recommend you to check. We have a free UX writing course, a blog that we make sure to upload stuff to it at least every week. We try to. And a weekly newsletter that also run by our team. Anya and Peter Jan also work with the UX Writing Hub, and it's amazing to work with them, and they will tell you more afterwards. And that's about it. And we have also UX writing courses, of course. You're more than welcome to check in the website, free course, and also the certified programs that we offer today in the UX Writing Hub. And yeah, that's about it. And in the meantime, make sure to say where you are in the world right now, because we really like the international essence of this type of events. And also, as a bonus, you can also add your favorite type of coffee, only if you want to. So without further ado, Anya and Peter Jan, you can take it away.
Cool, thanks, Yuval. So hello, everyone. Very happy to be here, and thanks for coming. We will spend the next hour also talking about UX writing, introverts and extroverts, and how to make the most of our personality at work. So we have an agenda for today. We'll start with a quick intro and hello, and then I'll just introduce you to the concepts of introversion and extroversion. And after that, Peter Jan will go into a bit more detail and talk about some common misunderstandings. I will then discuss the relevance of this to UX writing. And Peter Jan will talk a little bit about introverts in the workplace. And then we'll finish off with some tips for introverts and extroverts. So who are we? My name is Anya Wedberg. I'm a freelancer, and as a freelancer, I work on different projects, and I have multiple job titles. At the moment, my main project is UX writing for an English bank. I'm also known as a content strategist, I'm content editor, and recently I was a technical writer. So it was getting out of hand, and therefore I picked a title from this document called the A to Z of Writers in Tech Titles. And we can share this document with you later. If you have the same problem, I'm sure you can find a good title for yourself there as well. So 69% introvert. I haven't made up this number. It's from a test called 16 Personalities. And it's a self-test, so it says something about how I perceive myself, yeah? But it's really good, and especially considering that it's online, it's free, you can do it in 10 to 15 minutes. So again, we'll share the link later and you can check it out. And yeah, that's it for me. I'll hand over to you, Peter Jan.
Yes. So hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. I am Peter Jan. I'm originally from Belgium, but already since 4 years based in Krakow in the south of Poland. I work as a content designer for a company called Doc Planner. Doc Planner tries to make the healthcare experience more human, and I work there together with the team, and I take care of getting the right words on the different screens for doctors, patients, and clinics. I did the same test many years ago. Turns out I'm 65% introvert, which is for some people hard to believe. But it really resonated with me back at the time, and yeah, it's a topic that is close to my heart. Hence the talk today, obviously. So yeah, back over to you, Anya.
Yeah, so this was Pidyan and myself. So we're really curious about you in the audience. So we wanted to start with a quick poll. Yuval, let's try it and see if it works.
Okay, I pressed lunch. Now we have a poll.
Yep.
And you can vote. Yes, I see. All right, people are doing it.
So the question is, do you see yourself as an introvert or as an extrovert?
Or ambiverts is also an option there, I think. Yeah. I think you can see the results, Yuval, probably, no?
Oh, it's only me can see the results? Okay, so we are at 60% introverts, 5% extroverts.
Only 5, okay.
33%, 32% bang in the middle, ambivert, wow. And 3%, not sure.
Okay.
And cool. I would consider myself ambivert as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Like okay. Sometimes I'm like that and sometimes I'm like that.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, that's cool. So very few extroverts in the audience yet. It'd be great if you could stay until the end because we have a question especially for you.
Yes.
And it would be really, really good to hear from some extroverts during the talk as well.
We want your inputs.
Yes. So let's get cracking here. Okay, there's the result here on my screen. Okay, we'll get rid of that. Okay, so I wanted to start with these definitions I found in Cambridge Online Dictionary. Where it says that introversion is the quality of being shy and quiet, preferring to spend time alone rather than often being with other people. Extroversion is defined as the quality of being energetic and not shy and enjoying being with other people. So there's actually a problem with this definition because today there is a broad consensus that introversion and shyness are two different things. And so shyness in the same dictionary is defined as being nervous and uncomfortable around people. So that's really, really good to know that most people today agree that introversion is not about that. Of course, it's possible to be both introvert and shy. And it would be really interesting to find out if it's more common for introverts to be shy compared to extroverts, but it's still two different things. And I think one reason it's important to note this difference is that introversion and extroversion are usually considered permanent characteristics, not something we can just easily change. Shyness, on the other hand, if we are very shy and we want to change that, we have a chance, we can work on that side of our personality. So if introversion and shyness is not the same thing, what is it about that? So when you start looking into these things, very soon you will bump into this guy, Carl Gustav Jung, who was, Freud's most famous student. And he made some really good observations on this topic. He didn't come up with the terms, but he researched it quite a lot. And this is his conclusion here we see on the screen. Each person seems to be energized more by either the external world, extroversion, or the internal world, introversion. And the key word to note here is energized. And this is really the core of these two concepts. If we feel drained after being around people, we are introvert. If we recharge by being around people, we are extrovert. This is absolutely kind of central, very important concept. It's not the only thing that defines these things. And there's one more thing I wanted to bring up here, and that is that people have noted a difference in how introverts and extroverts process information. And so here's a quote from the book, The Introvert Advantage, which says, introverts tend to favor long-term memory over working memory, while extroverts do the opposite. So what does this mean in practice? It means that extroverts are very rarely lost for words. Even when they are put on the spot, they always seem to have a good answer. in most situations, and that's because they make effective use of what they have in their short-term memory. Whereas introverts like me, we have a tendency to kind of dive deep into the long-term memory, and of course we find a lot of stuff there, and we want to kind of go through it and organize it and analyze it before we come up with an answer. So this is interesting because I think it explains the kind of typical behavior when we think of introverts and extroverts. Introverts being very kind of quiet and finding it difficult to verbalize. Even straightforward questions like, could be something like, what do you usually have for lunch? I had that question recently and just couldn't come up with an answer. I just start, it's like your brain enters panic mode because we feel the pressure to say something quickly and yeah, kind of chaos going on in the head. So that's two core kind of concepts there, where we get our energy from and how we process information. And these two things have a kind of very profound effect on our behavior. So on the next slide here, I have just two basic lists here of typical introvert and extrovert characteristics. So introverts get drained in social situations, need to recharge in solitude, not very spontaneous, and need to prepare. Extroverts, on the other hand, thrive in social situations, recharge by talking to people, come across as verbally quick, and are usually happy to improvise. Now, having said that, it is good to note, if we go to the next slide, nobody's 100% introvert or extrovert. So we're talking about tendencies here, and there are those who fall kind of bang in the middle, and they are called ambiverts. Also interesting to note that there are studies that show it could be as much as up to half the population with tendencies towards introversion. Different studies come up with slightly different results, but yeah, some people think 30 to 50%. And so this is also very interesting because in many parts of the world, for sure, if you live in America and Western Europe or some other places, extroversion is the norm. So we are expected to be kind of sociable, talkative, and enjoying people company. And I think that's could explain why it's often difficult to know who is introvert and who is extrovert, because introverts feel the pressure to be extrovert when we go out. So we kind of pretend to be more extrovert than we actually are. So this was a crash course in introversion and extroversion. So I'll now hand over to Peter Jan, and he will go into a bit more depth about these things.
Yes, exactly. That was a great introduction to the key concepts, Anya. Thanks. As you said, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on those key differences, but also try to talk a bit about how this can cause friction and frustration between the two personality types and misunderstandings sometimes. And I have to say, I will be generalizing a little bit. As you already said, Anya, nobody is 100% introvert or extroverts. Between those two extremes, there are many shades of gray. But just for the sake of this presentation and to make a point, basically, I'm gonna be talking a bit more black and white, so to speak. As you already mentioned, the main differences are where we gain our energy from. Introverts refuel energy by being alone, turning inwards. Extroverts by being around other people, by experiencing the outside world, basically, by getting different stimulations from the outside world. And it's this response to stimulation that can be very different. Extroverts generally want to experience a lot of different things. Introverts like to know a lot about what they experience. Introverts can get quickly overwhelmed when there are too many things at the same time asking for their attention. When somebody's talking to you, at the same time there might be music playing, there might be, I don't know, a lot of lights or other sensory input, smells, I don't know. And after a while it can just get too much, and introverts just shut down, and they just sit quietly in a corner, hoping that the whole thing will end very soon. Extroverts, they need that stimulation, because if they don't get it, they get bored, understimulated, and just a lack of energy because of that, basically. And this is also visible in their approach to knowledge and different experiences. Introverts prefer to have to go deep, to have deep experiences, deep connections with fewer people, but also deep knowledge about a smaller amount of topics. Extroverts generally tend to have more different experiences, but it's not always necessary to dig very deep. And these differences can become clear in the outside world and can cause some misunderstandings. And the first big difference is the two personality types have a very different way of thinking. Extroverts tend to think by talking. Just talking makes their thoughts flow, it makes their juices flow. And by talking and also by listening and building on what other people are saying, they come to a conclusion. Introverts do it very differently. When there's a certain topic being discussed, they will think first. They will think a lot and cross-check everything with their own beliefs, their principles, their thoughts they might have about the topic. Then inside their head, they will come to a conclusion. And if they feel psychologically safe, they will externalize it and speak up. And that is a pretty big difference, as you all can see, obviously. And the frustration or the friction that can arise there is the fact that extroverts need input and a flow of thoughts. So that's the way they just do it. And they also expect other people to do the same thing. They expect that external stimulation. Introverts, on the other hand, are very much engaged, but they just are hoping that the extrovert will stop talking for a minute so they can hear themselves think, basically. So extroverts can think, well, introverts, they're just being passive, they're not cooperating, they're not thinking with me, whereas that is absolutely not the case, but it's just a different perception. And that is where the misunderstanding can arise, basically. The second big difference is also the way introverts and extroverts communicate. As already said, extroverts love to talk and they love to be in the driver's seat of the conversation. And they also don't mind discussing some opposing views or they're not scared of any verbal bickering, for example. And sometimes, because they're so passionately talking about certain things, they can overwhelm other people with their strong opinions. Because introverts have a very different way of approaching this. Introverts generally don't want to take up too much space during a conversation. And especially in the beginning, they will focus a lot more on listening and getting the other person's point of view before expressing their own opinion. And discussing opposing views and heated discussions can be a real source of stress, even later, like a long time after it actually happens. I'm sure many people will recognize that sometimes if you have trouble sleeping, your mind takes you back to some stupid argument you had many months or even years ago, and you just relive it in your head. And you almost feel as bad as if it happened yesterday, right? I'm sure that some people will recognize that. Also, when it comes to conversation and communication, both personality types have a very different approach to silence and to interruptions. Silence for introverts is a sign that they can start talking, basically. And they don't like to be interrupted, because when introverts express themselves, they think very deeply, and when they get interrupted, when that train of thought is getting interrupted, it's very hard to go back inside their own reasoning, inside the point they are trying to make, basically. Extroverts, they don't mind being interrupted. They actually expect it to some extent. And they're not big fans of silence. So as soon as there is like a silence coming, they're just going to continue talking, basically. And that is where the misunderstanding happens. Introverts are waiting for some space to start talking. Extroverts want to avoid silence, and yeah, a vicious circle is born, right? And the extrovert is thinking, why is this person not interrupting me? And the introvert is thinking, when is this person finally gonna stop talking? So yeah, and that can cause some friction as well. The third difference is generally speaking a different way of acting. Extroverts, they love to speed up, where introverts prefer to slow down. Introverts, before acting, they love to have a good idea of the broader picture, the context of what is going on, and also have some idea of the goal that they are trying to reach before really taking action. Extroverts generally prefer to just take action, just go for it, see where it takes us, and we can change course along the way. And I mean, I'm sure the best way forward is probably in the middle between those two. You shouldn't hesitate too long before taking action, but there has to be some kind of plan, obviously. But this can also be a source of friction. Time for a second poll. Yuval, can you launch the poll, please?
Yes. Can you see it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So please vote, everyone. And the question is, have you ever been misunderstood because of your introversion or extroversion? Okay, so I will share the result in a second. Make sure to vote, everyone. We have 73 votes, so we have 107 people here, so make sure that you vote, everyone. We have only 84% of the people here voted, so I'm not going to stop until we have 90. Okay, so we are at 88. 2 more votes, come on.
You can do it.
You can do it, people. Push. You got it. All right. So 89. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now, I think. 90. We reached 90. Cool. So these are the results. Can everyone see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
It's the first day. Yep.
Considering there are a lot of introverts, I mean, introverts is still the biggest part, I think, right? That was here.
Mhm.
Yes.
So yeah, there are some misunderstandings happening, quite some. Can everybody see the results? I guess so, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yes, perfect.
Cool. Good to know. Interesting.
Okay, cool.
I guess over to you, Anya, right?
Yep. So yes, how does it all relate to UX writing? Yeah, so traditionally, writing as a profession has appealed to a lot of introverts, for sure, for many reasons. It's been a relatively solitary profession. And of course, we haven't worked in complete isolation, but it's been perfectly possible to do your assignments with kind of minimal social interaction. In my own case, I often had maybe an introductory meeting with the client, and then I was working away on my own until I felt happy with it, send it off. Maybe we had a round of feedback, and then that was the assignment, and I could move on to the next task. Once in a while, maybe we had another meeting, maybe with an SEO guy or something like that. But yeah, really, you can spend a lot of time with just your best friend, the laptop, and that's it. Also, it usually required a level of kind of deep work with a lot of thinking involved, doing the background research, especially when we work with topics. We have to make sure that we know enough to be able to write something sensible about it. So that's another thing that attracted a lot of introverts to writing. And that's not to say that extroverts can't be good writers. Absolutely not. I know many good extrovert writers, but I guess they appreciated the profession for other reasons, and maybe even struggled with this part of being a writer. But of course, UX writing is completely different, because UX writing is a design role, yeah? And we are expected to be active members of the design team. And this means that we have to get used to regular stand-ups, lively workshops, brainstorms, open feedback sessions, We probably have to explain our role to stakeholders at all levels as well. We may be involved in user testing. We may have to present research findings, and maybe we even have to like go in and demand a seat at the table. So all these things, when I look at this list, I think, what an absolute dream if you're an extrovert writer, yeah, and a writing role where you spend much more time interacting with people instead of sitting behind your laptop doing things, yeah, and at the same time, a lot of challenges here for introverts, and let's not, yeah, maybe no need to kind of over dramatize the challenges here, because it's well, one, it's not rocket science, and two, there are many examples of excellent introvert UX writers as well as extrovert. At the same time, these challenges are like definitely a reality, and something we need to learn how to navigate if we're introvert and want to get into UX writing. So for this reason, Peter-Jan will talk a little bit about workplace challenges for introverted UX writers.
Yes, exactly. As you described very well. Yeah, we used to be writers that didn't have to talk to many people. Now it's nothing but people, you know, making sure you're in line with product managers, product designers, developers, all those different roles, different points of view. So yeah, there are some serious, well, not serious, well, but there are some workplace challenges that are not always that easy to navigate for introverts and UX writers. And before I dive in to those things, why are we focusing on introverts here? Well, first of all, as you already mentioned, Anya, extroverts, they are their very own best PR agents, right? They love interacting with people. They make a lot more, they make connections a lot more easily than introverts. And many of the things I will discuss here in the next slides are just come naturally to most extroverts. And I also think it's a good occasion to raise a little bit of awareness that those very obvious things that we do in the office can sometimes really be challenging for introverts. And I think it's good to raise awareness about our point of view, because almost all introverts have at some point in their lives heard that something is wrong with them. And also, as it is not in our nature as introverts to overshare and to discuss those things that much, many introverts can spend a big part of their life believing that there is something wrong with them because they don't share that with anyone and they don't hear similar stories from other people. So they believe they are just weird, and well, and that is obviously not true. Another reason why focusing on the introverts here a little bit, because extroverts are by temperament, because of their temperament, a lot more vocal than introverts, and introversion is a concept that is not always easy for them to understand. It's just so weird. It's just so strange for them. But the past decades and centuries, the cultural view about introversion has always been defined by extroverts. And that is why we end up with dictionaries and other reference works talking about or saying that introversion is synonymous to shyness, to sometimes even egocentrism or even narcissism sometimes, which is obviously not the case. So I'm going to discuss a few workplace challenges and also try to give some tips and tricks on how to navigate those aspects as an introvert in a sustainable way, because you don't have to change your personality to be successful in these things. You just need to make a few changes and approach it maybe a little differently. So the first aspect is relationship building, especially when you start a new job, for example. You know, all these new faces, all these new people that you're talking with, it can be quite daunting. And now, obviously, well, let's hope that COVID is not going to come back as badly as it has been, obviously. But things have gone online a lot more. Hybrid work, remote work there really has been a change there. So you don't see many people face to face, but back in the day when it was still mainly face to face meetings, introverts were just scared to end up in a group and start talking to everyone, yeah, that is just scary. So what you can do as an introvert, you can do what you do best, connect with people on a deeper level, get personal, try to build those one-on-one connections, reach out to those people and ask if you can have a one-on-one meeting with them. And what you can do then is just try to prepare those meetings as well as you can, get to know a little bit about the role of the person you're talking with, prepare some questions, and then listen to what they have to say, and try to empathize and try to build some trust, try to find some common ground on how you can support each other in your work. And as I said already, use different channels, not just face-to-face, just drop a line on Slack, send an email. There are many ways to get a one-on-one meeting nowadays. A second aspect is collaboration, and especially meetings, because meetings is generally a group of people that come together to talk about a certain topic, and too many people can be a bit much for an introvert. And the key word here is preparation. Just try to prepare as much as you can. Ask for the meeting agenda a few hours or a few days even before the meeting will happen, because then you can have a look at the agenda and already think about the topics that will be discussed. And maybe you will have something to say during the meeting. Maybe you can come up already with some point of view that you want to share in the meeting. Also, try to manage your expectations in the meeting, because you don't have to be the life of the party. You don't have to be speaking constantly. It's not only the quantity that counts, it's also the quality. So if you just have one thing to say during an entire meeting, but it is bang on, well, that is really good, obviously. So cut yourself some slack. It's all right not to be talking all the time. Yeah, just be nice to yourself, I would say. When you're the one who is organizing the meeting, then I would say double prepare, because you will be talking a lot and you will be introducing the different topics. So don't try to improvise. Many extroverts can do that beautifully, and it's one of their qualities that I'm every now and then a little jealous of, to be honest. Just do it on the fly. As an introvert, unless it is a topic that you're very familiar with and that you know really well, I would try to avoid it, because you're probably not going to run your best meeting if you're not properly prepared. Also, during a meeting, it is perfectly fine to point out what makes you uncomfortable. We talked about interruptions. Also, if you're being put on the spot, if somebody asks you a direct question, it's perfectly fine to say, I don't know, like I have to research that. I have to think about that, but I will get back to you. Nobody will ever say anything about this. That's a perfectly valid answer. Also, interruptions, as I already said, interruptions is something that introverts don't like. They don't like doing it. They don't like getting interrupted. So it's also not rude to claim your speaking time. So when you're speaking, somebody wants to interrupt you, just raise your hands and you can just say, just a second, please let me finish. Because yeah, I mean, it would be a shame if the meeting would miss out on the point that you're trying to make. And nobody, if you do it, obviously, if you do it in a nice way, then there is no problem, I would say. A final aspect of the workplace that can be quite challenging for introverts, and this is probably the scariest for most introverts, is self-promotion. For some introverts, it's literally hell on earth. We don't like to be in the spotlight too much. We don't like to be overexposed. There's too much going on. It's just not. It doesn't come natural to us. I'm going to put it like that. Also, I think because of our natural tendency as introverts not to overshare, sometimes many introverts don't know how much they know about a certain topic, and that is also why they don't really have the tendency to share anything, because they think, well, what I know, everybody else knows that, right? So the imposter syndrome is definitely real, but I think for introverts it's probably even a little worse, because often we don't speak that much about all the stuff that we know. and we can't really benchmark it against other people, right? So yeah, how can you navigate that as an introvert? How can you navigate self-promotion? Not by taking a huge leap outside of your comfort zone. I would say try to push the boundaries and expand your comfort zone step by step. So start small with some, low pressure interactions. Talk to your boss, talk to your colleagues about a project that you're very passionate about or that you're really proud of. And very often when it's something that you love talking about, you will say it with a lot of passion, and people love listening to passionate people, generally speaking. So I'm sure you will do really well. Or if you don't want to talk too much, you can also express yourself in writing, something that many introverts prefer. So you can write something for the company blog. You can maybe share your thoughts on Medium, on LinkedIn, on other platforms. So that's also definitely a form of self-promotion. Also, in your company or outside of your company, you can be part of projects that you're really, really passionate about, because that is something that will, make a fire burn inside of you, and you will really want to do more for that. And gradually, you can take up more responsibilities by leading meetings, organizing other things. And before you know it, you might start making presentations during a meeting, even a company-wide presentation, and sometimes even a presentation for 100 plus people during an online event. Because I mean, if somebody would have told me a few years ago that I would be excited and happy to take a speaking opportunity for a bunch of people, for 100 plus people, I would have said there was something very wrong with you. Really, it was just unimaginable, and this I'm really enjoying this. So it definitely is possible, but as the final point says here, you have to stay true to yourself and don't take too big. Don't make too big. Don't make the jump too big. Just small steps forward, slowly but steady, and you will get there. You can get there. You can bring something like this within your comfort zone, so to speak. All right, an open question. One for the introverts, and a few minutes later, we're going to have one for the extroverts. So please share in the chat, how do you deal with some of these introvert challenges at work? Any examples or stories that you would like to share? Very, very curious.
So, and while we're waiting here, maybe we can just point out that there has been a lot of really cool examples in the chat already. And maybe we can even
go back. Yeah, I've missed most of those, to be honest. I was talking, so
yeah, I mean, this is a good one, and I'm sure many people can resonate. It resonates with a lot of people. When it's from Manuel. When I switched from journalism to UX writing, my manager told me I was doing a good job, but tended to work in solitude. That's when it hit me that designing is different. Yep. Okay, we have many new messages.
I use the raise hand feature in Google Meets. It's great for introverts. Absolutely, I agree. I think like the meetings online have now many functionalities that are very introvert friendly. I definitely agree with that. Yeah. I prepare myself for a lot of meetings and sessions, do a lot of research. Found that sharing that research with the rest of the team is super useful as they understand how I reached the conclusion. Cool.
Oh, we missed one. Usually listen to a calming podcast or music right before a meeting where I have to present so that I can cut out on distractions. Yeah, nice tip.
Yeah,
I did that today.
I did something similar 1 hour ago. So yeah. One thing I tell people sometimes is that I'm a crock-pot thinker and that I might not have anything to say at the meeting, but I'll likely have an answer later and share it then. Very good. Yeah, at least people know, right? At least people know that you're engaged, and yeah, great answer. Centering in one person when I talk works for me, so I feel less anxious. Yeah, I think that's also a public speaking trick, if I'm not mistaken. If pick out a few people in the audience and focus on them.
Yep.
I really struggle to think of what to say in meetings on the spot. If I can prepare ahead of time, I can fake it, but otherwise it's really difficult. Yeah. Our mind doesn't work quickly enough for that. It's very recognizable.
Several contributions here about preparing. Prepare like crazy. It's the option we have.
Exactly. I think, I mean, there are a lot coming in. Maybe we can briefly, once we finish the talk, we can go through them again, Anya. But maybe let's finish first, because the extroverts will follow as well with their input. They're a bit less.
We don't have so many with us.
Exactly. There are fewer people.
Okay.
All right. But thanks everyone for those answers. Great.
Yeah, great tips as well for everyone. So we talked a lot about challenges and frustrations and stuff like that. So I wanted to kind of start rounding up here and just remind all of us that we are all equipped with some superpowers that come in very handy in UX writing, both for introverts and for extroverts. So introverts tend to be very good listeners, and listening, great for developing empathy. And as we know, empathy is a really important aspect of UX in general, the ability to put ourselves in our users' shoes. So that's a great thing. We enjoy deep work, so we tend to be quite good at it. Again, excellent for UX research and related tasks. And the last point here, I actually made up, I don't have any statistics to support this, but I'm thinking that as we tend to think first and then speak, we often express ourselves concisely. And if we can translate this into writing, then for sure we have a very important UX writing superpower right there. Because of course, we want to be able to express ourselves with as few words as possible, most of the time at least. So that's pretty cool. And for extroverts, we've mentioned many of these things already. Fantastic to for making their voice heard in their element in workshops and meetings, and usually happy to kind of spontaneously join lively discussions. So when I see these two lists of superpowers, I think this makes a fantastic team, if we have a mix of both. And when I say that, I don't mean that the introverts should do all the thinking and the extroverts should do all the talking. Definitely not. I mean that if we are aware of how differently we function, then we can learn from each other and we can support each other. And so in such a team, that's a super team, And just thinking about what that kind of team would look like. We have a picture here of the UX Writing Hub. This is not the whole UX Writing Hub, but I thought it was funny, that we have kind of 3 solid introverts behind Yuval. And of course, Yuval is usually the person who is happy to do all the podcasts, the workshops, rarely lost for words, I would say. And I put a question mark there after extrovert because Yuval, you said yourself that you might be more kind of ambivert than a full-blown extrovert.
It depends on the day of the week, I guess. I really don't know. I might be perceived as an extrovert for sure. Yeah,
exactly. Yes, so let's finish off here with some final tips. First for introverts, and then we have a list for extroverts. So the first one here, I think it really helps just to remember that introversion is actually different from being shy. So it's perfectly possible to be a confident introvert. And just knowing that helps me quite often. This has been mentioned numerous times here in the chat and in our presentation. We have to prepare well before meetings, workshops, and presentations. And one really good thing to do is to practice the speaking, verbalize what you plan to say it out loud, even to yourself. It really, really helps. Most of the time, it is okay to say, let me get back to you later, today, tomorrow, next week, whatever. If you are in a situation where you feel it's not okay to say that, there are some tricks, you can do to buy time when you're put on the spot. So for example, I mean, I can't say that this is something I excel at myself. It's very, very difficult, but once in a while, when I get a direct question and I don't know what to say, one thing I do is I repeat the question. So I say, okay, just to clarify, you wanted to know if blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. And just by giving myself those extra seconds, sometimes it frees up a little bit of space in my head and makes it easier to kind of relax and say something. Next point here, let people know that you are introverted. And for sure, this doesn't come natural to introverts. We don't like walking around talking about these things, but there might be situations, for example, in a one-to-one with your manager, could be a good time to explain how you function, and that will also help your manager to make the most of your abilities, basically. Also, if you want to challenge your introverted personality, start small and start sharing things, even if in like your immediate team, or even with just one other person, and maybe hold a kind of mini presentation with just 3 or 4 people, and then you can build up from there. Last tip I have here, keep telling yourself that presentations are fun. This is a tip I had myself very long time ago from an extrovert person. And at the time, I was in no position to take this piece of advice on. Absolutely not. On the contrary, my response to this guy was, you have no idea what I'm going through. It will never be fun. I'm just going to, struggle my way through it and hope that I survive, okay? But now looking back, I can see that it is a good piece of advice. And if you can get to that point, where you can take this on, it really, really does help. And the person who gave me the advice, his point was, if I keep telling myself that it's going to be horrible, I'm not giving myself any chance to do a decent job. Whereas if I tell myself that it's going to be fun, at least I'm giving myself a chance. So I would keep that in mind as well. So then we have some final tips for extroverts, kind of based on conversations I've had with extrovert people. The first one here, build awareness of introversion and extroversion. And the reason I say that is that I've met a lot of extrovert people who are completely surprised when we talk about how introverts function. They had no idea. And I even had one kind of solid extrovert person who he said to me, it had never ever occurred to him that anyone would feel this way in these situations. Yeah. So if that's the case for many extroverts, then that's step number 1. Yeah. And second one, practice your listening skills. Try not to interrupt people. And again, I guess it starts with the awareness. Once you are aware of how people function differently, then you can start like acting on it. Yeah. Third one, to get the most out of your introverted colleagues, remember that they need to prepare before meetings and workshops. Yeah, do keep that in mind. We can do a much better job if we have the time to think before we do something. And finally here, if you are the type of extrovert that maybe doesn't enjoy deep work or struggle with that part, then team up with your introvert colleagues. They can maybe help you, or they can give you some tips on how to do things, and you can get some support from them there. So this list, I actually, it feels a little bit weak, and for natural reasons. I'm not an extrovert myself. And another interesting thing is that introverts are so interested in this topic, and there are loads of books and articles and videos. I've never seen a book that focuses specifically on extroverts. So everything I know about extroverts, not everything, a lot of it I have learned from introverts. And only these few people that I have talked to about this, they have like told me a few things yet. So, but this is why we would love to hear from the extroverts here, if there are any left. I hope so. We have a question, especially for the extroverts. What do you think about the description we've given here of extroverts? Does it resonate or not? It would be great to hear. So feel free to share in the chat. You can also raise your hand.
Anyone wants to comment on that? I'm also very curious.
Mm. Yeah, Catherine said, just wondering if this topic appeals more to introverts than extroverts. It seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it also has to do a lot with, okay, we have an answer here.
Oh, cool, thanks, Danielle. I feel like it does resonate, but I also have to prepare for meetings. I can present fairly easily to small groups. Okay, bigger groups. Okay, cool.
That's probably like where there's a bit of a difference. For even small groups for introverts can be problematic. And obviously, yeah, everybody needs to prepare. But I also think, from my own experience, then at least, if I don't go very deep in that preparation, like literally prepare what I'm going to say, sometimes word for word, then I might, struggle during the delivery.
For me, it's like I just want to say something about the fact that I really liked what you say about deep work and the fact that maybe introverts have easier times to get into deep work, because as an extrovert, I feel like deep work is something that is very rare and I always try to achieve it. It's very difficult for me. If you have tips about that, about how extrovert like me can get some deep work or something like that, that would be really useful for me.
Yeah, sure. I think you have mentioned a few like tricks you have yourself, like the Pomodoro technique. I think you have tried to like focus on one thing for a period of time.
I tried it many times, but I'm not consistent with it. I haven't done it for a while now.
Yeah. I mean,
the right
hard,
playlist.
Yeah? Sorry.
The right playlist can do a lot for me.
Yes, that's the ADHD. I'm going to YouTube and then I'm stuck in this rabbit hole of different videos that I'm watching instead of going into my playlist.
We need an introverts playlist on Spotify.
Oh, that would be amazing.
There probably are some. You should look
without words, I guess, right? Only instrumental music, I guess.
We have lots of more responses here.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, Melanie says it absolutely resonates. That's really good to know. Okay, love the memes. So do I. Yeah.
The memes are not mine, by the way. Like, just thank the internet.
You've stolen them.
Yes, exactly.
Borrowed.
Peter, I think you were about to say something and I kind of cut you in the middle.
Yeah, I was probably going to react on one of the comments, but I don't remember exactly what it was now. I guess there aren't an introverts and extroverts. It depends on context and auditory.
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, but yeah, what I've read recently is that it's actually kind of permanent quality.
I think the context can just bring out different things in different personality types. I mean, introverts can also be very chatty and can talk a lot if the context allows it, and if they feel comfortable within that context, and if the topic is something that they really like, for example. There are a handful of topics I can go on and on and on about to a few people, but yeah, don't put me in front of an auditorium, please.
Yeah, don't throw me on the stage. Okay, here's Annalise. In my experience, I've worked with fellow introverted designers and engineers, so it's made collaborating quite easy. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we get each other. Yeah.
Work in sales, one-on-one. Yeah, probably. I recently read a book actually about sales for introverts. It's called the Introverts Edge. That introverts make the best salespeople just because of that. Because of one-to-one, they can create even better connections. And also, if you have a process in place, then you can get great results.
Yeah. So I saw a couple of interesting comments earlier on in the chat about extroverts who feel more introverts with age. I thought that was interesting. Not something I've never thought about. If that's how to explain that.
I've heard about it once, and also that it apparently has to do with the older you get, the less you are in need of extra stimulation. And extroverts earlier on in their lives really crave that stimulation, and apparently when people get older, it's less necessary, and that's why they have the feeling they become more introverted.
Yeah.
Okay, still many comments. How are you an introvert? You're so friendly. So many times. Wow, yeah. That is rude. I only ramble to the people I know extremely well. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I have this too. I have groups of people where I feel less introverted than with like a group of strangers, for example. And that's a good point. And but I think work can become that kind of space where you feel people and you feel comfortable enough to to share things and present and stuff. So yeah, that also.
All right, I think we're through the slides, right, Tanya? Probably.
We are through the slides.
Yes.
We have some resources here, some tips of videos, some books and articles and stuff. We have a link to the 16 personalities test and the A to Z of writers in tech titles. So we'll include the slides when we send out the video, so you can check out those resources. Yeah. I feel like there's so much good stuff in the chat here. We can save the chat, right, Yuval? And
yes,
there was a question.
Just saved it right now.
Yeah. Are there any questions, by the way? Because it's been really great that everybody's been sharing so much, and really was a joy to read all the stories and reactions. But maybe some questions that you still might have. Can we agree that being an introvert can be a strength? Absolutely, absolutely. You just have to understand it and not listen to the people that say that you're weird.
I learned today about the highly sensitive people, HSP. I didn't know nothing about it. I feel like I need to read more about it. It's an interesting concept, because often people might say to me that I'm too sensitive. And I know that my sensitivity is like can be very bad, but also very good. And someone just mentioned it in the chat, and I didn't know about this concept, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody feels recharged. Well, that is probably the best compliment.
Thanks, Amy. All right, so share your LinkedIn, by the way, because I promised that we'll do it right now. So this is my LinkedIn. Everyone, you can share your LinkedIn. Feel free to add each other as well. If anyone have any questions, now it's a great time. Before we finish, of course, everybody are thanking Peter and Anya, and I want to thank also Anya and Peter for setting up this amazing talk with all of the resources. That's amazing.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, let's wait for a few minutes. Oh, many people share their LinkedIn. That's awesome. We will also share this. I'm going to save the chat, and maybe we could try to share it somehow.
Yeah.
And then people could have access
I feel that we can do something with everything we have in the chat. Maybe we can collect some quotes, or we can maybe write something, an article or something like that. Oh, there was a question. Any thoughts on being a leader manager as an introvert? I'm going to share straight away an article on this topic, and I thought was really helpful. One moment.
What about the link for the personality test you mentioned at the beginning? If you just Google 16 personalities, you will automatically get there. It's an MBTI personality test.
There you go. Just showed it here.
Yes, great.
This is
there. It gauges more. It gauges different facets, different aspects of the personality, but introversion, extroversion is one of them.
all right.
I'm still looking for this article. I have it. Okay. Here I have it. And on the topic of being a leader as an introvert, good to remember that a famous introvert in the world is Barack Obama. And so I'm always thinking, like, if an introvert can run America successfully, then surely we can also be UX writers and lead UX writing teams. So here's the article for the person who asked the question. Who was that?
It's been snowed under, I'm afraid.
Okay, it was Chris. Okay, you have the link there.
I mean, I also think as a manager, it's all about understanding yourself and how to really how to use your energy. Because I mean, you just have that much energy, and how do you divide it in between management tasks and other tasks, and you know, maybe there are different aspects of the people aspect of being a manager that can recharge you as well, that can give you energy. So I think it kind of starts with understanding yourself and understanding what gives you energy, basically. And if there are aspects of management that do that, then yeah, then management can definitely be for an introvert.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, right? And I've been thinking, like, how did, if Barack Obama really is like a solid introvert, how did he cope? Like for 8 years, he must have been exhausted. That's what I guess.
Noise canceling headphones, probably.
okay. So I think that's about it, right, Anya and Peter?
Yes.
That was
Thanks,
it.
everyone. It was great.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. It was an amazing event. Thank you, Anya and Peter. And we will send you the recordings. Anya, we can add also the slides to that email, and also I'm saving the chat right now, so we could share somehow. We could find a way to share that one as well. And that's about it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another webinar by the UX Writing Hub. Feel free to follow our weekly newsletter. I have a feeling that you're going to like it. Weekly digest in your inbox every week with a lot of great content by our team. And that's it. And see you in our next event. And see you soon.
See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.